Hello, this is Greg Allison, Green Gregs, coming to you on the 19th of December 2020 with things that you'll want to remember and keep in mind aplenty. We're going to talk about prepping essentials and considerations, and essentially the things that you didn't think about, the things that you forgot. So we're going to start out talking about a primer. We're going to go over the prepping essentials one more time. And this just might be a good thing to, remember, oh yeah, I forgot this, but especially it will be useful to those of you that are new to prepping. But we're going to go from that, and toward the end, it's the most valuable part of this video. I'm going to talk about what it is you forgot. What did you not think about? What have you not considered that would give you leverage in your prepping when what hits the fan hard? We're in a what hits the fan soft, but it can get a lot worse. So these are things you need to consider. But of course, one of the things that I have a really good deal on right now, a special, is I got $100 off. If you go to prepwithgreg.com, you can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 2,000 calories per day, a full month supply, 2 of these buckets with $100 off. And there's also a discount for a 2-week supply with 1 bucket. Each of these are 2 week. With a month supply, you get 2 of these buckets, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. With that deal, you'll be a winner. And that food lasts 25 years. But you can also have other options. This is the meat packet. Hey, this stuff lasts 30 years. Shelf life. It's great. Hey, you might want some meats, different things. You may be a low keto diet, so you might like that. There's also veggie fruit packs and other things available too. And if you go to the My Patriot logo and click on it on the prepwithgreg.com site, you will find links to all kinds of other prepping supplies, things like what we'll be talking about for a good part of this video too. So there's plenty there that you can choose from to help you survive. Prepwithgreg.com. The links are in the channel notes and also in the posted pin notes in my notes section. All right, enough of that. So everybody, well, hey guys, I hope everybody has their beans, bullets, bread, and butter, right? So yeah, well, we're not so much talking about that, but we're going to go into all these things. Of course, many of you know the rules of threes. You got to have 3 minutes. You can live without air, basically, if you can hold your breath that long. Some people can't. 3 hours, within 3 hours, you better have a shelter, or you're going to be in hypothermia or or something like that. So then there's also 3 days you need to have water. You can only make it 3 days without water. If you're in a desert, you're hot, you're working hard, you might be 3 hours. Water is essential. And for food, 30 days. Everybody really puts food first in their consideration for prepping because we get hungry, we feel it, oh, I'm hungry. But you can really live 30 days without food. That don't mean it won't impair your health. You can actually make it 40 days. You can do a little bit more than that, but 30 days is kind of a rule of thumb. But it's going to start hitting your health. If you don't have it, you may not think well. Your motivation can be down. You won't have the energy to work and to move and do the things you can do. So you need the food too. But it's very essential. We know we can't survive without it. But we need to put more emphasis on some of these other things and things that give us leverage to make some of these things go a little bit farther. So we're going to talk about that, essentially, especially with water. What makes your water go further? Now, of course, we've all lived through the toilet paper prepping episodes, right? So everybody knows they need toilet paper and paper towels. It's funny how that became the most important thing right off the bat when it hit the fan light. And people chastised me for laughing about that when I went to Sam's to buy coffee for my coffee club. And I went in, almost closing time, and the whole parking lot was full. And I walked in, and the lines went to the back of the store, and all the carts were full of toilet paper and paper towels. I just died laughing. And I got chastised for that. Why did I laugh? I already had that stuff long ago because I'm a prepper. Preppers think ahead. That's the key thing, is thinking ahead. What is it you might need? Anything you might need to have yourself set. The things you use, you need to think about, and that's what you need to get. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each of these in the primer portion of this, and we'll expand on them a little bit. And then we're going to go into the things that you forgot or the things that's going to give you leverage to make this stuff go farther. So air, people don't think about that one much. Just hold your breath. See how long you hold your breath, how long you go. It's always possible that you could be in a toxic environment where the air is bad. Maybe there's extra diseases and things like that. It takes a long time for a person to extinguish all the air in a room or a house. You can breathe it, you shut all the doors, you're not going to suffocate overnight. You don't have to have a window open either. In fact, if you have really bad disease epidemic, if you have nuclear radiation or some kind of biological chemical situation, you may want to tape up your doors and windows and things like that. For your home, you can always get a HEPA filter to run your air through, and that'll clean a lot of stuff out. But in the worst situations, especially if you're in tactical maneuvers, gas masks are important to have. Many preppers have gas masks. I have some. Do you have enough for you and all your family and all the people in your mag group? See, there may be the challenge, because they are expensive. But don't forget, you need the filters, the replacement filters for these masks. They're only good for so long, but in the long-term grid down, you're probably going to face these situations for a limited amount of time, because there's only so much bad stuff like that people are going to be throwing around, hopefully. Hopefully. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to be doing more videos. I've got a nuclear bug out video coming, bug in, bug out kind of video. And I've got a video I'm going to be doing on, I'll be doing a lot of bug in, bug out videos, like what, why to choose each one. When to change, what to consider from bugging in to bugging out, bugging versus bug out. I think I've already done one on that, but I'll be doing things like I'll be doing more bug out bag videos. I did a travel bug out bag video. I'll do other versions of that. I'll be doing videos on, I'm gonna do a bug out bike. I got a bug out bus. I'll probably fix my van up, bug out van. I'll be talking about those things. So you'll think I'm the bug out man. I prefer bugging in though. And we'll go into all that stuff, but sometimes you just got to bug out. So how do you do that? What do you do? Where do you go? There's a lot of things to consider in these things. How do you go about it? And the answer is going to be variable. There's no one size fits all. It depends on the situation. We'll go into that in the future. But for more of those videos, and the videos I put out here about how to eat from the weeds and trees, I got a video on purifying and sanitizing water. I've got videos on growing your own food. These are essentials. Growing your own food especially. And the water, of course. I did the water video first, and that's why, because that was the most important. All right, all that said, just subscribe to my channel, bang the update notification bell, and click all. And that way, hopefully, you'll get the notifications to my videos. But I talk about controversial topics sometimes on the platform. It's somewhat less than totally ecstatic about that. So it would be good to check back occasionally, make sure you're actually getting all the notifications, or make sure you haven't been unsubscribed. That happens too. All righty, let's get back into it. 3 minutes for air. Like I said, consider your HEPA filters, your air breathing mask and stuff like that. But generally, we can take it for granted the air is pretty good. Water, though, is something you got to have. Most people are going to die early on, are probably going to die for a lack of water, good, clean water. They're not going to have water, or they're going to drink water that's contaminated, and the water will cause them to get sick, and they'll get diarrhea and perish from not having good clean water. That's what's going to wipe most people out first and foremost. Now, there's two things to remember about water, and that is that water needs to be purified, and water needs to be sanitized. That's two different things. And I've heard some guys really get other preppers, big prepper channels get that mixed up. Like David Hodges was referring to filters as sanitation. No, no. It might be for large bacteria, but not for viruses. So filters purify your water. They get all the mess out of it. And hopefully bacteria too. A really good filter hopefully will take out the bacteria. It depends on how good the filter is, how tight it is. We got live straws, cellular straws, and various things you can carry around. Filters you can flow your water through. And I got that on my video on purifying and sanitizing water. But of course, the viruses are there. You've got to get rid of them too, because there may not be as prevalent, but there's still viruses that can be in water that can wipe you out. So you want to be able to find a way to sanitize your water. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm gonna pull this out without causing an avalanche. Fire, of course, heat, boiling water for 3 minutes is a good way to kill viruses. Ultraviolet light will do it. And plastic glass blocks UV once above a certain distance. But if you have a nice clean, oh, this is not too clean, plastic bottle, you don't want it to be too big around. A 2-liter bottle is probably too big. Something like this, you tie a string around it, carry it on your backpack where the sun's on it, or lay it out in the sun, roll it over a little bit, swish it around. You leave it out a couple hours in the ultraviolet. That should take care of most of the viruses. And also, you can boil water in a plastic bottle. Whether the water level, as the flames don't leak above the water level. Of course, I'm not going to talk about what chemicals you're going to get out of that plastic. I personally would want to do that only as a last ditch effort. But hey, if you were facing dying from bacteria or having some chemicals, I would choose the chemicals if I had to make that choice. It'd be a longer term effect. The bad bugs would get you a lot faster. And maybe in a case like that, if you don't have good water filtration, the sanitation might be the most important element of it. You don't want chemicals and correct, a lot of junk in your water. I covered how to do that, how to use leaves, sand, charcoal, rocks, and all that stuff, and do it in a big plastic bottle or 5-gallon buckets. That's in my purified and sanitizing water video. Check that out. All right, shelter. Let's be thinking like my house. That's a shelter. Now, an earthquake, this might collapse. You still might be able to find shelters and nooks and crannies. But what's going to be running through your house, critters and things like that. And how was it going to keep the water out, if you're lying under a collapsed roof or whatever. And you're certainly not going to have the security like that you normally have in a situation like that. Of course, a good shelter that we think about is tents. Your vehicles can be a shelter if you can bug out and you stay in your vehicle. Like, hey, I got a bug out bus that I'm going to be outfitting, right? A lot of videos will be coming on that. That'll be worth watching when I get that going. Plus, I'll be traveling around with it. This is going to take time to get all that going because it takes my time and money to fix that stuff up. I'm a little bit short on both right now. I've spent too much lately. So, but shelter items can, hey, your clothing is shelter. Dude, you can't survive 3 hours if you're exposed to elements. You get too hot or too cold. So you can run hypothermia, heat stroke, and which is very, very, very serious, can kill you. I don't want to go there. So you need good clothing. You need clothing you can layer. Having one big coat isn't necessarily going to cover it. And I've lived in the Arctic, my parka was very thin, but it covered a lot of area. It went down to my feet, and it did a good job. It just had one little liner in it and a shell, and I had a fox fur ruff on it. So one of those things you pull down to a little tunnel so you can breathe in and out of the air, so you wasn't breathing the 60 below air straight into your nostrils. We'll still freeze frost on your nostrils, so you had to carry a handkerchief when you walked in the building. Oh, that was going to come gushing out. Greg, I didn't want to know that. You will if you're in the Arctic, or some people think the Earth's poles are going to shift. You might not be in the Arctic, but you might wind up there. I kind of don't expect that part to happen. But hey, magnetic pole reversal, oh yeah, we may be in for that. And that's a whole nother topic. I've covered that a little bit. I'll probably do some more on that soon. Okay, but shelter, tents, of course. If you carry a tent, you want a lightweight tent if it's just you backpacking. Now, if you're in a vehicle, you can afford to take a bigger tent with you. If you got several people and you want to sleep together, you can divide up who carries what somewhat. One person carries the tent. If you're carrying a bigger tent, somebody else needs to carry cooking gear or something like that, so you're not all carrying the same thing. If you're bugging out, especially if you're backpacking, you only want to carry about 10%, no more than 15% of your body weight on your back, to be honest, so you can maneuver around. Shoot, I've carried 80-pound packs. I'm gonna tell you what, you're up on the Appalachian Trail. I'm gonna tell you what, you're not moving real fast when you're carrying an 80-pound pack on your back on the Appalachian Trail. I promise you that. But if you throw in everything they tell you to have, you can't carry it all. You got to pick and choose. So we'll be doing bug out stuff. Here's a good solution right here. This is a hammock, which is like a hammock tent. So it's your bedding. It's got a cover to it, or you can put a tarp over it. I would put a little tarp over it. But this is very lightweight, very small. It's great. It's wonderful. And I've also got some of those little expensive lightweight backpacking tents too. So, and I got tents of various sizes. I got I got 2 family tents. I got a couple of these 2 or 3 really large tents. I got a couple of the regular 1 or 2 person tents, and I got the little bitty tent that's kind of like a sock you climb in. That's the ultimate backpack. And I got a couple of these, which I need I need to get more of those because I think that's really the way to go. But if you're camping out, you're on the ground, you got to have something to separate the moisture from you. It could be a curtain, a shower curtain, some plastic, a vapor barrier to keep that moisture from coming up while you're sleeping on the ground, or you're going to be wet and miserable. You're going to get a lot of trouble from that. So leaves, different things. If you can't carry, hey, you know, you watch all the survival shows where you just get to choose one thing. Maybe it's a pocket knife or a hatchet, you know, a bolo knife. You know, a lot of the survivalists, they get to pick one thing, you know, some of these shows. That might be all you have. You might find yourself falling out of an airplane and surviving somehow. That has happened, by the way, out in the middle of the woods, and all you got's what's in your pockets. And you probably don't have a pocket knife because they won't let you carry one on the airplane. So what do you do in that situation after you kind of heal from the bruises of falling through the trees and weeds? There have been a couple of people survive that way. No parachute, but not very likely. Okay, but, you know, you never know when you might wind up in a situation that all you got's what you got on you. But let's get back into these items. Shelter. Of course, learn how to make shelter from bushcrafting, from the weeds. Go out where in trees where you can break the limbs and move them around and pile them up just right. Throw in the leaves in the bottom. Cover it up in such a way to stop the water. A lot of videos on that. I'll do videos on that in the future too. That's the ultimate way to do it. And that's skills that everybody needs. Bushcrafting, in case you wind up like that, those are really good skills to have. Okay, but don't forget your clothing is shelter. It's a form of shelter. You know, and you might find yourself sleeping in nothing considered as sleeping bags. I got a sleeping bag I've had since I was, I don't know, 13, maybe 14. It's called a Polar Guard bag. I don't think they make them now. It's not down bag, but it lofts just like down. It's a synthetic material. Holy smoke, that thing will bake me in the coldest winter days here in Alabama. I'm like a baked potato in that thing. But I have kept out with it even in the summer, but it would be open. It's a mummy bag, but holy smoke, that thing. Now, with a bag like that, especially a down bag, you don't want to leave them packed up all the time. If you do, and you open them up, they're going to be compressed. They're not going to loft properly, and they won't work. So I keep my bag totally unfurled. I have for years, decades. That bag is old. It's older than most of you. But it still works. And that is true. So that is a form of shelter. But, you know, hey, if I was lying out, oh, that's one of those bags. Unlike a down bag, that bag is such, if you put it in the creek and wring it out good and crawl inside it, it would still loft. That was what was the advantage of that bag. That's why I got it. So down bags are good. That's probably about, you know, there may be some synthetic materials like that Polar Guard bag I got, but you got to have a good bag. So pick your sleeping bags well. Have some kind of sleeping bag. If anything beats nothing, even a cheap cotton, whatever bag that you get at Walmart will do in a pinch. But you know, you want to have layers if it gets really cold, especially if you're in an Arctic-like area. You're going to have to really do some things to stay warm. Tents, build igloos. You better learn that bushcrafting. Have heat sources in your tent. Well, we'll go back to that. Food. Of course, you know, hey, I've got this long-term storage food. The cool thing about this is I can always pop this open and pull packs out and throw them on my backpack, because this is like, you know, mountain craft and other things like that too. You know, this can be good camp out food, bug out food. Just throw the bags in. They're not MREs, so you know, I hate MREs. You know, when I was in the Army, I liked C-rats better. The old can stuff. We had a can opener. It came on our dog chain that we would use, and I still got mine. We called it a P-38, like the aircraft, because it would, you know, like that aircraft would open up ships and sink them. Can opener. So with that, and it was just a little folding aluminum apparatus, but my little Swiss Army knife here has the same kind of thing. That's what I love about it, and it's this little blade right here. That'll open cans. I've opened a lot of cans, even big old coffee cans, number 10 size cans with that blade. It works like a charm. And you know what? It don't wear out. A lot of these old can openers, you know, mechanical ones that you got the little twisty handle on, those things are terrible. They wear out. I hate them. This is simple. You might have to sharpen it occasionally, but I like that. That I like. So the aspect of food is, you know, you got to be able to open your cans. It's got to be, or have something that lasts, that you can carry with you a little bit, but learn how to forage. Really study foraging. It may not make up your entire diet. You may be a little bit deficient on calories and protein, That's why you need to grow food and store food as much as you can. But the foraging will help you out. That's one of those force multipliers. But then again, get the food like I showed, and bug in versions of that's a big number 10 can stuff based on. Oh, that's really good for bugging in and storage. And if you got like me a bug out bus, yeah, you can carry those too. But I'm still working on that project. So the shelter, of course, that's proper shelters. You can store more food, right? So self-defense is another thing you got to consider. It's not one of those threes that's immediate. Should you be threatened, you got to be able to deal with it. And your self-defense methods double as a method for hunting. If your self-defense is something that takes you a few minutes to assemble to get it ready to pop the shot, you might be in trouble if somebody jumps you automatically. Again, you might have something with a larger blade than this, but hey, in a pinch, that beats nothing. But you got to watch it because your hand might slide on you, right? You don't want to hold something and you've done yourself in. So if you got to use something like this, you better consider how you want to hold it, so that you're not, cutting yourself, because you're applying force with it, and it makes your hand want to slide. So you might want to hold it, somehow in a way that you're not going to be in trouble. If you only got a pocket knife, the bigger knives like my K-bar, that's my favorite for things like, or my bolo knife. If you got it. Oh yeah, I got a saber back here too. I got 2 of those. And yeah, I got friends got a whole bunch of sabers and swords and all kind of knives. And I used to save his lives. All right, so self-defense might be just hand to hand. Maybe you just need to train. What do you do? How do you do it? How do you position yourself? You want to minimize your profile. You got to have a blocking action and a punching action, for self-defense. Maybe you need to practice some moves, learn. I took karate. So that helps, knowing a few things like that, knowing where the people's weak points are, like their knees, and how to take them out with the side of your foot. Oh yeah, I learned a few tricks. I learned a few tricks in the Army. I learned a few tricks from my dad, who did his share of hand-to-hand combat, was a deputy sheriff. So it's important to know these kind of tricks and learn them. But self-defense may not be, everybody thinks bang bangs, self-defense might be mace. There's a lot of times you don't want to apply deadly force. And if you pull a trigger, you're telling the world for a mile around, hey, I'm right here I am. And so there's times you got to do that. I mean, if you're in combat, you got people trying to overrun you, you got to really take self-defense serious. That's where you need perhaps the kind of things they're trying to take up from us, the things they want to take away from us first. No, they don't want to take them all away. They want to take away your plastic fork, probably. Plastic fork control, that's next, right? But yeah, there's a lot of ways to have force multipliers. Oh yeah, that. Boom. Boom. Yeah, that would hurt. See that? Oh yeah, this is one of those kind of things that serves several functions, right? And several function items are good to have. So let's kind of get back into these things a little bit further. So there's one thing that stretches across water, food, and shelter. There's one thing that brackets all 3 of these, and that's fire. The ability to make fire is crucial. Now, the easiest thing to do is have a bunch of these. These are supposed to be good for a few thousand strikes. And I suppose that's if you don't turn it all the way up, right? It's easy to make a fire with it, supposedly, as if you have a good fire lay. You should really practice making a fire with 1 match, and then learn to do it with arcing and sparking. Many ways to do that, electric batteries and so forth, but those only last so long. One thing the prep is very popular in the prepping community is things like this. And I've got several versions of these, and I got sticks on, long rods, having a ferrocerium type rod here. This is a striker rod. And if you take like a blade, now see in here, there's a little blade. It's a hacksaw blade that comes with it, and that's pretty typical. And you could also cut a few things with that hacksaw blade. It'll take a long time to cut through some metal with it, but it's doable. And, basically, essentially, you take a knife and Set my house on fire here. And then over some paperwork. Yeah, I don't want to use the other blade. I was using the back side of it and it was making good sparks, but this one, I took it from the sharp end. That's not what you want to do. You see the difference in where I was hacking it with that knife. Made a big deep furrow where I was getting the black back of the other blade was nice little. Yeah, you want to. There we go. Just kind of edge on. Not straight. I was going too angled. See that? The beauty of these things is that you can do a lot of strikes on that. And this is a magnesium source here. You can take this stuff and just whittle it off and whittle up a pile of this, and you throw that spark in it, and that stuff's going to catch on fire. Something else to bear in mind is to use fat wood, and it'd be like rich pine, the core of a pine tree, for example. That's good fat wood. And yeah, you probably don't want to use your pocket knife too much for that, because it's kind of hard on a pocket knife. I have to sharpen this thing again. But that's why they give you the striker blades to use. I just didn't want to pull it out. But yeah, you could use your knife. I've got a bunch of these. It's my favorite knife. So fire. It also means your ability to collect wood or whatever you're going to burn. And you need a cutting instrument to make the wood cut. So, you know, I've got my bolo knife. And I did my video on my 3 favorite knives. I showed one of these, a K-bar, and a bolo knife. My bolo knife serves also as an entrenching tool for me, because it's got that large end on it. So I love a bolo knife for that. I can dig with it. I can cut with it. It's, you know, not too bad for the idea of self-defense. So somebody come on, because you got a range of blades only yay long. I got machetes with blades yet long. So in combat, having blade reach does matter. But I got sabers too. But yeah, that's a little different thing handling a sword or a saber. It may not be practical to carry on a bug out situation, but the bolo knife has such a multitude advantage that I've been carrying that since I was 12. But it's good for firewood cutting, for cutting wood to make your shelter. So it also reaches across a couple of those things. But see, fire, you need fire to sanitize the water. You need fire to heat your shelter. You need fire to cook your food. That's why I said fire reaches across 3 of these. So it belongs in its own category. But eventually, even if you have these wear out. So flint and steel would be a good technique. You know, you can always find steel. If your steel piece will last a long time. And you can always find a steel if you have to. And flint, you know, so if you're in the right areas, you can find flint or chert rock might work too to make sparks. So chert rock, flint, you can find these things, and that can last a long time. Or be resupplyable. So if you get flint and steel skills, you got to practice that. You need to practice fire starting anyway. And you might find you fall out of skills with it. You know, if you're a kid and you camp out a lot and you get that one match strike down pat, you might find a few years later you go, I used to be good at this. You may have to re-practice it. I found that myself. So it's best to keep your skills honed. And the fire starting is really crucial. So it might be better to, in the long run, learn how to use the bowl drill and learn how to make bowl drills. You know, the spinning sticks. And some people do it with their hands. But if you can do that and you're really good at it, it's going to take a lot of energy, but you can do that too. So there are things to learn. You can learn, and you just need to practice them and practice them and practice them. Also, there are means to keep the fire going. You don't want to use, if you've got a pocket full of these, you don't want to use them all up. You know, you might find that you can take a tin can and punch some holes in it so you can get air and have some punky wood or something there to maintain a coal or an ember for a long time. Or there's certain fungus, the chagra or whatever fungus that people also use for that. So there's different ways to keep an ember, to maintain an ember. And there are, you know, tribes that do that, so they just don't have to go through all the work to make a fire every time they want one. See? And preserve and stretch out the use of these things as much as possible. So we talked here about the key essentials of air, shelter, of water, and food. Oh yeah, food, you better be able to grow your own. Ultimately, especially beans and potatoes or sweet potatoes, so you can get the proteins and the and the carbs that you're going to need. Greg, I got a bang bang. I'll never starve. Well, you know what? You're going to starve within about 2 months because all the big stuff, you know, all this big bore bang bangs are shooting at, it's going to be gone fast. You know, our ancestors nearly, when we just had a few million people hunting, nearly wiped everything out when our country was far more plentiful with muskets and muzzleloading rifles and shotguns. You know, yeah, that stuff isn't going to last. And if you got a big bore caliber rifle and you're trying to take a squirrel, all you're going to find is fur. Yeah, small bore rifle might work better, but then again, remember, bang bang, here I am, I'm right here, din time. Yeah, you're a target. So every time you pull a trigger, you're announcing the world, here I am. There's a time and place for that. But definitely is, especially if you're in combat. You know, there's a time and place for that. And I've got my numbers of rounds are in the very high category, and I'm glad I got them when they were cheap. So that's a good barter item, as long as you're not worried and bartering at somebody that might shoot them back at you. See, a lot of people, oh yeah, well, it's a good barter. Yeah, maybe you want alcohol for barter. Something makes the other guy silly, so he ain't gonna be messing you up, or it might go crazy and come after you. Okay, well, downside to everything. So we're going to go into the things that you forgot here, the things that you had to think about. What are the force multipliers? Because you may have known all of this stuff. The force multipliers, the things that water. You want force multipliers for water as much as anything. Why? Because good, clean water is going to be precious. We didn't talk about collecting water. Hey, rainwater with big tarps, okay? Dig down a lot of places you can get water. Well, I probably should do a video on obtaining water, storing water. That's a whole nother subject. But how about stretching the water out? Oh yeah. How about these things? Paper plates. How about plastic forks? Did you think about that? Greg, why don't I that's wasteful? Well, look, guys, this means you got to do less washing. Paper plates, plastic cups, and paper, all that paper product like this, that's less washing you got to do. Now, this plate is just a pure paper plate. It's not embossed with all kind of glossy stuff. So I can put these in my worm bed. I can recycle them. Plastic cups I can use to start plants in. It's a plant starter. So I can get 2 uses. I've made several of that if I don't tear them up too bad. If you've got the means to compress them down under heat and kind of cook them in an oxygen-deprived environment, if you know how to do that, you might be able to make diesel fuel out of plastics and recycle that too. That's a whole nother ball game. But paper plates are a huge force multiplier. They save you time. You may need your time for other things besides just washing dishes and using your water that way. And you got to ask, if you're washing dishes, do you want to use your best, cleanest water for that? Well, you don't want to wash dishes in dirty water. You at least want it purified, sanitized. It may be you're reusing your water, but if you do that, you want some good soaps and some kind of bleach to kill the stuff in it, because you don't want to be eating off of stuff that's got contamination on it. Yeah, the bleach only lasts 3 months, so consider your pull shock, your pull powdered and tablet type bleach. You can buy it in tablets, and that might be good for purifying your and sanitizing your water also when you're on the go. But you only carry so much of that stuff. Again, you need to learn the skills of that. There's going to be plastic bottles around for a long time, people. But fire, that is really the key to killing everything. Okay, fire. Learn to make your fire. But that is one of the things you really got to consider is how do you multiply the, oh yeah, don't forget, there's other things that you need to remember, like detergent, dishwashing soap, hand soap, sanitizing stuff. Learn how to make it with lye from wood ashes too, and animal fats. Eventually that's what you're going to have to do for soap. And I'm really sure, my friends, when the grid goes down, if we lose these big power transformers, it's not coming back. You'll never see it again. Not in your lifetime, not the way it is today. So these are skills that are going to be essential. What we talk about is prepping today. It used to be the way people lived. They didn't call it prepping. It's what they had to do on a day-to-day basis. We have a lot of force multipliers that help us get into that, but we're going to need them because we're not used to living the way those people used to live. Eventually we'll have to reacquire the strength, the agility, and just the ability to exert brute force, and lots of it, and do it continuously day in and day out, like an Olympic athlete almost. That's where we'll have to go. But you know, people in old days ate a lot of food. Our ancestors ate like 4,000 calories a day. Because that's how hard they were working. So they got really good at procuring food. Okay, that's what it's at, growing food. That's going to be very, very, very crucial. So don't forget, you know, it's not just toilet paper in the paper product aisle. Pay attention to the cups, the plates, the forks and knives, because these are things, your bowls, these are things you're going to need. Also, other things you're going to need: salt. People think about the things you take for granted. You don't use that much salt, but you still really need it, and it's going to be a big trade-off. I remember in the old days, salt was considered very precious. It was like gold. Pepper will be good because you'll just need it for food flavoring, and it's also good for you in a lot of ways. So if you can store up a lot of pepper, salt can be made from salt water if you're near a sea or a saltwater spring. You can make some by boiling hickory sticks and getting the residual off the inside of the can, but you know, you're going to be stretching with that. So salt is going to be very, very important. Salt's important for preserving meats if you can get in the good amounts. It's very, very important to have salt. Salt is good for cleaning water for fish to a certain degree. I've used salt to put fish in to get to kill the gunk on the outside before I introduced them to my aquaponics. Yeah, I put them in salty water and left them there for a while. You don't leave them too long and they kill them. But salt is real crucial. I've actually got a lot of salt. I bought 50-pound bags of salt, and I got a 40-pound bag in the back of my van right now, in my gold van. So salt is going to be crucial. Sugar, yeast. You know, so people don't think about these things. You know, you might be buying a lot of flour, and buy some self-rising flour, but eventually you're going to be making and grinding your own. Have yeast. Get sourdough starters kits, sourdough. Maybe you can make your own sourdough, but those are going to be very crucial things that people don't think about. Of course, a lot of people got flashlights and all these just cool little survival lights. If you're in a car and it goes down in a creek or a lake, you know, you want to be able to break the glass because there'll be so much water pressure on it. You can't roll it down. Or the motor might be shorted out, so you won't even roll it down. So you have to break your way out. The side windows are easy to break out of than the windshield, by the way. You might be able to get on your back and your feet push the wind on the windshield typically, but if you're surrounded with water, no. No, that ain't coming out because you got so much pressure on the outside pushing in. It's going to see your strength, what you're pushing out. Seatbelt cutter in case you're jammed. Plus this thing, you know, it's got all kind of flashlight, strobe light, red flashing light, compass. These are cool to have. You can buy these in a lot of places. That's your glass break, you know. But the cool thing about this is also doubles, that you can use this as a club in self-defense if you had to in close quarters. Bang! Up against the old noggin would hurt. It would really hurt. Anything that hits is going to hurt bad. Of course, a hammer works pretty good too. That's my boy Thor. Not using a hammer. Yeah, hammers. Hammer time. Dun, 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 dun. All right. So here's what you need to do. Here's what I advise. Think about all the things that you use every day in the course of a year. Think long term. What do I need? What do I use? It might be in little amounts, but you might discover you can't do without it, like salt. And what do you really, really, really need? Take inventory. Think about it. Add it up. And you might be surprised what these things are. That's what you need to stock up on. That's what you need to get ready. The stocking is not hoarding if you don't do it at the last minute, because just people buying extra stuff throughout the year means the whole industry has got a bigger demand on it and has a higher production capacity. So if it does hit the fan, like we had to hit the fan a lot, where a lot of factories were shutting down, they already had a lot of manufacturing capacity in certain areas. So if they brought it down a little bit, it might be closer to what you need. You see what I'm saying? Well, prepping is not a bad thing. It's not, you know, necessarily hoarding. Now, if you're running in the last minute as a toilet paper prepper, you are the problem. But if you had prepped normally ahead of time for toilet paper, you were the solution. You see what I'm saying? All right, so there we have it. I have talked about fire starters. I've talked about, oh yeah, Flashlights, you need good flashlights. The cool thing about this is it's got solar on it. I can recharge it, you know, through the connectors that you use for cell phones and things like that, the USB connectors. It's got good battery set in it. It's also got a magnet where I can stick it up, you know, put a light out here. It's got the little flashy blinky thing going on with it. It's got the strobe lights. These are good lights to have, and I can just click it up here on my cabinet there in the little store, and I can grab it in a hurry if I need it. You can put them on a vehicle, click it to the hood when you're working underneath it. You need an emergency strobe light, you got that. Those are good to have. You need to consider other things too, like you might want to have night vision. Now, what might you be facing? We may be facing, you might have to face combat, even though you don't want to. I mean, they may bring it to you. You may have gangs coming at you if you're bugged in. They're all bugged out. They find you. You are meat. Don't forget that. You are long pork. If it gets that bad, people get that hungry, you are long pork. You and all your family members, you've got to protect yourselves. You are valuable. Your life is valuable to yourself, and your meat might be valuable to somebody else. So we don't want to be there. Don't go there. Don't become dinner. Be the winner, not the dinner. Yeah, that's a rough one to say. So maybe that's a good one to end this video on. So how about that? So I know you watched it this long and say, Greg, I don't want to be the dinner. I want to be a winner. Or it might say, I want to be a winner, not someone's dinner. I wouldn't want somebody for dinner, but you know, in tough situations, there are those that will do that. There really are. And you don't want to run across them. So you got to be able to defend yourselves, have your groups. So for survival purposes, we've got this tribe network I'm forming. I'm starting to contact people finally. I've got the potential leaders identified, the spreadsheet, first edition. I've got it together now. And if you want to get on this list, email me at info@freedomrestorationfoundation.org. And I'm also working on we have that organization. We'll have a website coming up soon. It's being built now. And we're fighting for our freedoms. So if you're interested in that, email me, same address, but in the subject line, put freedom. If you're interested in survival tribes, put tribes in the subject line, okay? And again, just remember, say, hey, Greg, I want to be a winner, not someone's dinner. Yeah. All right, my friends. I think that it's time to go. So all I want to say now is a very hearty ho, 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 and thank you for watching.